Good evening and welcome to Rothley Parish Church for the second video in this Holy Week series. Tonight you're going to be led by myself and Serena, and we are going to be talking you through John chapter 18 verse 29 to John chapter 19 verse 16. I'll now hand over to Serena, who will lead us in an opening prayer.
Lord, thank you for bringing us here this evening. Thank you for this great opportunity that we get to look at your word. And I ask that you will really speak through Jenny and I tonight, and to those listening, Lord. And you will give us time to focus and reflect on your word, on your Easter story, and on the great love that you have for us. Amen. So our reading is starting at chapter 18, verse 29. So Pilate came out to them and asked, "What charges are you bringing against this man? If he were not a criminal," they replied, "we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said, Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. "But we have no right to execute anyone," they objected. This took place to fulfill what Jesus had said about the kind of death he was going to die. Pilate then went back inside the palace, summoned Jesus and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Is that your own idea?" Jesus asked. "Or did others talk to you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied. "Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me. What is it you have done?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place." "You are a king then," said Pilate. Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me." "What is truth?" retorted Pilate. With this, he went out again to the Jews gathered there and said, "I find no basis for a charge against him. But it is your custom for me to release to you one prisoner at the time of the Passover. Do you want me to release the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "No, not him. Give us Barabbas." Now Barabbas had taken part in an uprising.
Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. The soldiers twisted together a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They clothed him in a purple robe and went up to him again and again, saying, "Hail, the King of the Jews!" And they slapped him in the face. Once more Pilate came out and said to the Jews gathered there, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no basis for a charge against him." When Jesus came out wearing a crown of thorns and a purple robe, Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." As soon as the chief priests and their officials saw him, they shouted, "Crucify! Crucify!" But Pilate answered, "You take him and crucify him. As for me, I find no basis for a charge against him." The Jewish leaders insisted, "We have a law, and according to that law he must die, because he claimed to be the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was even more afraid, and he went back inside the palace. "Where do you come from?" he asked Jesus. But Jesus gave him no answer. "Do you refuse to speak to me?" Pilate said. "Do you realize I have power either to free you or crucify you?" Jesus answered, "You would have no power over me if it were not given to you from above. Therefore the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free, but the Jewish leaders kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat him on the judge's seat at a place known as the Stone Pavement, which in Aramaic is Gabbatha. It was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about noon. "Here is your king," Pilate said to the Jews. But they shouted, take him away, crucify him." "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed over to them to be crucified. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus.
So when we came to reflect on this passage, the three main themes that we felt were coming out of it was Jesus' love for us, God's plan, and the fact that God is ultimately in control and in authority.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing we're going to look at is Jesus' love. And for me, a bit that stood out was in John chapter 19, verses 12 to 16, where Pilate introduces Jesus to the crowd as being their king. And normally you would associate that with lots of joy and celebration, particularly in Jesus' case. However, they just come back and shout "Crucify" at him. And I think it's very we can sometimes forget that Jesus was God in human form, and so he would have been experiencing all those human emotions being out there in front of that crowd and seeing all these people turn against him. But him knowing inside that he was about to give the ultimate sacrifice for us, to all of these people who were just against him. And I think that is so incredible that no matter what, he's still willing to give up everything for us.
It's a great comfort, a great joy.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it links back to Palm Sunday. You've got the streets packed with people cheering for Jesus and shouting for joy, and so many people witnessing his teachings of love and peace, and his healing miracles and raising people from the dead, and then having that just thrown back in your face, I think really, really shows the immeasurable love that Jesus has for us. And I think we can be quite quick to judge these people, to think, why throw it back in his face? He's taught you all these things. You cheered for him less than a week ago, and here you are condemning him to death. But we can be like that in such a short amount of time. We do it on a daily basis. We come to God asking for things, thanking him, praising him. But we can so quickly give in to sin and just turn our back on God, and yet he will always be there to welcome us back when we turn to God and repent and ask for forgiveness.
Definitely.
And throughout that first part of chapter 19, the crowd, they were given so many chances.
So many
chances to stop their shouts for crucify and turn it into shouts for joy. But they kept crying so intensely and ferociously for Jesus' death. And I think that also shows his patience that he has for us, as you were saying,
the human
nature, the human nature side of him, that he remained so calm and didn't get angry at these people, and just kept the patience and love for us. It's incredible.
It is
incredible.
It really is. So the second point going on to is God's plan, and for me again in John 18 verse 32, I think you can sometimes, God's plan will sometimes feel unexpected or not how you would imagine it, like with the crowd, with this. But I think you've got to remember that all of it is part of his plan. Whatever seems shocking or disturbing for us will be, what God had intended. And even though it may feel like that at the time, like with the crowd and Jesus, there was a way out. There was something that was coming that was going to be better.
So much better.
Yeah, so not everything, you might imagine that God's plans are all going to be, with rose-coloured glasses on, but they're not. They are going to have their ups and downs, but you'll get through it because of God's love and power. And further on in John 18 verse 36-37, I think this bit you get to see Jesus try to explain to Pilate why he was sent to earth, because Pilate threw out he's on Jesus' side. And so you really see Jesus give him this insight into why God has done this. And I think that this can be translated to us nowadays. Like, if you put God in Jesus' shoes and us in Pilate's shoes, we can be going along and questioning, why is this happening? Why is this the way it is? And then God will just be like, because this is the plan. This is your plan, and it will be okay.
It's such a great encouragement to know that what happened wasn't a result of Pilate or the crowds, but it was God and his great plan, that he was in charge. And though it may seem, like you were saying, horrifying what the crowd were doing, this didn't take God by surprise.
No.
He was in control, and it was all to fulfill his plan and to give us something so much better.
Yeah, definitely. And so finally we're moving on to power and authority shown in it. And I think a bit that was poignant for me was John 18 verse 38-40, when Pilate puts Jesus out to the crowd for a second time. He is rejected and a known criminal is put up for release, and it makes you really wonder what people thought of Jesus to want to have him killed and this criminal set free.
I've always found that so strange.
It is.
And I think John really makes the effort in verse 40 to emphasise the fact that Barabbas had taken part in this uprising. He was a known violent criminal, and yet the crowd still chose to release him over Jesus, who had come in love and peace and practiced all these amazing miracles for people. And it appears in this moment that the crowd are in control. There's this confusion. Is it Pilate? Is it the crowd? And the crowd really seemed to be swaying the verdict.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when we go to John 19, verse 4 to 7, when Pilate takes Jesus out for the third time, the crowd shout for Jesus to be crucified, and when Pilate, still kind of has this barrier, they bring the law into it, and Caesar, these big names and important things which, big deciders in it, and therefore Pilate's kind of put in a tricky situation because, it's them trying to assert their power and remind him of his place. But then later in John 19, verse 8 to 11, when Pilate tries to get Jesus to talk, to really understand why are these people thinking this of you, Pilate tries to assert his authority by saying, I have the power to either crucify you or set you free. And then Jesus just simply replies with, all power comes from above. And that immediately puts Pilate into perspective of his position in this all, and reminds that, God is the ultimate higher power.
Yeah, I think that verse is such an incredible reminder that Pilate and the crowd, who we perceive at different times are in control, that it's not them, it's God has placed them perfectly to form part of his plan. And today, when we look at our figures in authority, it's such a great comfort to know that God is above them. God is the highest authority, and that his love and his justice will be the ultimate verdict, the ultimate decision. And what a comfort.
Yeah,
that is,
definitely.
to know that throughout all of this there is that thread of God constantly being in control.
Yeah.
It's not the crowd, it's not bringing out Caesar and the law, but God is behind it all to fulfill his amazing plan.
Definitely, and I think, at the moment that could almost translate to what we're going through with the coronavirus. It will seem difficult at times, and we will all have our low moments, but we know that there is going to be better days ahead of us.
Yeah.
And so just to keep remembering that, and keep remembering that things will get better.
God is in control.
God is in control.
So we're just going to come to our time silence now, time reflection, and just a few points that you could choose to think about if you wish. To thank Jesus for his love and his patience that he showed for us, and to remember where the ultimate authority comes from, that it is from God, and what a comfort that is to know that God's great plan for us is going to happen. It's such a great comfort. So give you a couple of minutes now just to reflect on what we've said. We hope you found that time of reflection valuable, and we're just going to close in prayer now. Dear Lord, thank you again for bringing us here this evening, and we thank you and praise you for your great love, for your patience, and for your power, and that you are in charge, Lord, and you have a plan, Lord. And I ask that you will continue to be with us as we go out into our week. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been lovely to share these 15 or so minutes with you looking at this passage. And so tomorrow there will be a talk by Torah in the Holy Week series, and some other things to look forward to. There will be a recording of the choir singing Hail Glorious King coming up on Friday, as well as a service in the morning, and then there will be a service on Sunday as well. So thank you very much, and have a lovely rest of your week.
Have a restful and happy Easter.
Oh yes, indeed. Enjoy the holiday.